Today is Monday, April 20th, 2015. We're here for the purpose of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. I would ask that you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before I ask Clerk Spencer to call roll, Alderman Toledo is out of town, but she is calling in. Alderman Toledo, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Okay, so respond to the roll call, and you'll be part of the meeting. Clerk Spencer.
Gutenkopf.
Here.
Loiter.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Holumsky.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Toledo.
Here.
York.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Conquest.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
14 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. On to receipt of written communication from the public. At this time, is there anyone in the audience who has any written communication they wish to submit to the council? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, I see one person. Mr. Cremery, please hand whatever you have to Clerk Spencer. Anyone else have anything they'd like to submit? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 3, public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on any matter they so choose. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes out of respect for the work that we have to do here this evening, and also out of respect for the other folks who might want to speak. If you do go over your 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap it up. At this time, Clerk Spencer, do we have anybody who signed up for public forum?
Yes, we do. I'll start with Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys.
Ask that you approach the microphone, state your name, and address is optional.
Claude Pagach, 566 West Gladys. I was told a little story last meeting, but we'll start with the end of the story. The land we own, referred to as Han, has no value. That's how the story ends. But it is amazing that the city council that now sits and the mayor went and bought a gas station for $1.4 million. Didn't run any tests on the land. And now we're stuck with cleaning up a mess. There's an alderman sitting up here, asked a question some years ago about the cleaners that was bought, why it was being blacktopped. No tests were taken there either. Interesting, isn't it? We take tests after we own the property. No building permits. A resident in this town wants to get a gate in his fence, and he's got to go and get a permit. Wants to put a doghouse up in his backyard, has to get a permit. Needs a new roof, needs a permit. No permit fees. Interesting, isn't it? The developer, yes, indeed. He asked for building changes when he was debating whether the city would accept him. Looks like he got everything he wanted. Yes, indeed, yes, he did. Oh yeah, and water retention. Lovely, isn't it? The city is now stuck with putting in water retention and paying for it. That also was brought up with the builder. Yeah, kind of forgot about that, didn't we? Yes, indeed, it's great, okay? This agreement covers Han, but unfortunately, land outside that property is affected, like York Street maybe, like CVS parking lot. That's a whole new set of negotiations, more expenses for the city. And after hearing that story, I went home rather disappointed. Here I am, a resident, getting stuck again to build something. But wouldn't you know it, I pick up the paper. A developer, they can't get a construction loan unless the city puts it up.
Mr. Pragash, I'd ask you to wrap up your comments.
Why? Just a second, Mayor. Diane, I'm going to be sorry to see you go. You were a sound voice for the residents of this town. Long life, good health.
Jean, Terry Lean, Terrence Terry Lean, sorry.
Good evening. I thought I'd write the official name down, but Terry is much more familiar. I recently came out of hibernation, and as a senior citizen, I was kind of hopeful that with your 3 minutes, I might get a senior discount. You know, I know a little overage, but I'll try and speed up. I have, I guess, 6 or 7 items. They're not that long, hopefully. And one of them, what Claude spoke a bit on Street, I think just a comment, and again, kind of what I know is what I read in the local papers, that it was suggested that no developer would pay the $10 million costs that the city has put out for the property. And I guess my only comment was, well, one developer put out, the citizens of Elmhurst. The remediation costs, again, I thought I saw an estimate on the overrun that was approaching $1 million. And I was wondering if that was included in the $10 million cost, or is that an add-on because we really haven't started on that? And we certainly hear that this is good for Elmhurst, and I have certainly have no objection. But I wondered if there's such a thing as, I guess I'll use an old term, break-even analysis that would provide a timeline as to when the property and the development becomes a plus for Elmhurst. Number 2, real quick, Duchessois Industries. I wondered if Elmhurst had an opportunity to make a pitch to them as to where they were going to build their new headquarters, which I understand is going to go up in Oak Brook. And second question is the staffing for that headquarters going to come out of the current workers that are located in Elmhurst? We hear that downtown has been affected on retail and other revenue sources because the hospital has moved south, and obviously that's true. Are there any efforts to try and determine what attracted hospital employees downtown, and is there something that can be done on the south end to retain their participation? Recently, I believe there was a proposed development presented at a special meeting, and again, what I read was it's a 4-story building with, I guess, residential type usage, and I thought it might be more realistic for them to present a 6-story building and ask and find out how much money they're going to ask for TIF funds to develop it. Seems like the precedent has been set for 6 stories. I recognize that our ordinance limits to 4 stories, but on a realistic basis, if you want discussion and transparency, it would seem to just jump right up to the 6 stories, because I suggest you folks are going to approve it on if they need a variance. I'm going to change subjects.
Mr. Lean, could you wrap it up? You're a little over your 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I've incorporated the senior extension as well.
Waste removal. We live at 707 Hillside. It's what euphemistically is called a starter house, although we've been there 53 years. So we look upon it as a finisher house. Single driveway, but when we get a heavy snow, the 65-gallon behemoths that we now have aren't very easy to move, and there's no place to put them except to dig out a platform in the snow and try and muscle them up there. That suggests to me that it's lowered the risk to the operator. It's, in some cases, we just don't bother to put them out, so there's more productivity to the operator. And in turn, for less use and higher risk of injury, we pay a higher fee, as I understand it. And just quickly, on the waste removal, I'll call it the garbage side, the covers are down when they finish. The recycle side, they're left open. When it rains and snows, they fill up with water. Is there someone who can negotiate with the company to see if they could close them so we don't have to try and dump the water out? Thank you.
Michael Cremery.
Well, you guys are in for a treat. I got it all on an index card today, so my time will be minimal. Uphold. Definition, it's a verb. To maintain, affirm, defend. A month from now, we will install aldermen that have won their election, congratulations, as well as a new one. And they will take an oath that says they will uphold the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the chartered laws and ordinances of the City of Elmhurst. The oath of office does not say you will uphold the laws and ordinances when you feel like it or when it's convenient. Thank you.
Paula Pezza.
Good evening, Paula Pezza, 275 Cottage Hill. I'm here this evening to thank Alderman Gutenkopf on her last night in office. On behalf of many of us here this evening and many who could not make it this evening, just want to say thank you for your 8 years of service to Ward 1 and the City of Elmhurst. You did what you were elected to do. You were a voice of the people and for the people. You worked as a public servant, not as a politician. You were fair, objective, accountable, responsive, ethical, realistic, and honest. Thank you for those things. Your voice for the people will be missed, but we certainly will not forget you. So on behalf of all of us here this evening, we wish you luck in future endeavors, and thank you again for your service.
Tamara Brenner.
Tamara Brenner. So based on the results of the festivities from 2 weeks ago, it seems that machine politics is alive and well in the city of Elmhurst. I'm happy to know that one viewpoint is going to be very well represented on the city council starting at the next meeting. About 20% or so of the potential participants showed up, and the majority of them decided that we should have a room full of politicians rather than public servants. The good thing for me, I think, is that the meetings on Mondays will probably be a bit shorter because what's going to be needing discussion, most of you are already going to agree on stuff. So I get to go home a little earlier because I still plan on showing up and watching. I think it's possible that there's one item missing on tonight's agenda. It should be item 5.29. It's a request for bid. I hear that our esteemed leadership in the city has put out a request for bid for the most enormous rubber stamp they can possibly find. And what they should also do is have another item, 5.30, in which case we suspend the rules so that we can approve the purchase of this rubber stamp because we will be needing it starting at the next meeting. Now, maybe you need some place to store the rubber stamp if it arrives a little sooner than 2 weeks from now. And I suggest, well, we could have put it on the space where the Addison parking garage is to be built. Oh, wait, it is being built now. I think it's a little behind schedule, but it's being built. So we can't store it there where we have stored supplies from City Center before. But another location we might use to store the ginormous rubber stamp is across the street on the west side of Addison's surface parking lot, which is not doing anything right now. But pretty soon we'll have either another fitness club or an apartment building, because you can never have too many of those. But in the meantime, till we can get that organized, that's a great storage spot for the rubber stamp, and I hope you use it in good health. Mazel tov.
No one else signed in, Mr. Mayor. She's
Okay,
the
that's
last.
it for everyone who has signed in. I notice people have been filtering in at this time. Is there anybody who did not have an opportunity to sign in on our sign-in sheet to speak but wishes to address the council? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll move on. That concludes public forum portion of our meeting. On to announcements. Any announcements? Alderman Plumsky, are you going to take something off of my report? Go ahead.
I don't think so. Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., the City of Elmhurst is hosting a sustainability plan public workshop to gather input for developing a sustainability plan. All are welcome. It's a small group format, and refreshments will be served. Thank you.
Okay. Any other announcements? Alderman Bram.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't actually have the details in front of me of my announcement. Maybe you can help me out for the, I believe it's on Wednesday for the O'Hare public forum that's happening.
Do we have that? We'll get it by time my report rolls around.
Great, thank you.
There's a little bit to add on that as well. Okay, any other announcements? No other announcements. Go on to consent agenda. At this time, is there anything on the consent agenda anybody wishes to have removed for further comment or to vote no? Alderman Gutenkopf.
5.17.
5.17. Okay, anything else? Alderman York.
5.21.
5.21. 5.17, 5.21. Okay. Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 5.17 and minus item 5.21. Motion to approve consent agenda minus those two items. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Deuter. Clerk Spencer.
York.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toludo.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays. That's it.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Consent agenda passes minus items 5.17 and 5.21. 5.17. Clerk Spencer, I would ask that you read the ordinance.
0 dash, well, I should say O dash 24 dash 2015. An ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of the redevelopment agreement by and between Morningside Han LLC and the City of Elmhurst, Illinois.
Okay, to put this before the council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Wagner. Alderman Gutenkopf, you pulled this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 weeks ago, when we were discussing this as a committee report, I made some comments about stormwater storage and subsequently voted to approve the report. In the succeeding 2 weeks, I've really had second thoughts about that. I don't think the stormwater storage on this site is the best that it could be. I think we're making really minimal efforts to placate some notion that we should be adding stormwater storage to every public project. And I've since changed my mind, so I am not going to be supporting this redevelopment agreement from my perspective, primarily because I think we could have done a lot more.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it, at least by my standards, relatively short. 2 weeks ago, I spoke to the report, and I didn't support it then, and I won't be supporting the ordinance now. Just a handful of items that I want to highlight from 2 weeks ago when we did discuss the report is what I deem to be a great development overall, because I'm excited to see Han Street being redeveloped. But I think we're giving away everything, including the kitchen sink, and that's not what I'm in support of. 2 weeks ago, I spoke in regards to everything that I had concerns about in regards to the height exceeding what I thought was a fair compromise. Some of the conditional uses, it was the height, was the planned development. Some of the variations was anywhere from what's required per dwelling unit, dwelling units on the first floor, et cetera, down the line, parking, signs. One of the residents already spoke about the other things that the city of Elmhurst is giving to make this development happen. That's waiving, we're still doing the permit process. Want to make sure that wasn't taken away from the residents' comments. We're still doing the permit process, but the fees are being waived per the developer. We're moving utilities. Alderman Gutenkopf mentioned the stormwater detention. That's not at the cost of the developer. It's at the cost of yours truly and everybody else who resides in the city of Elmhurst. We need to pay for it. We need to maintain it. What we're getting is 150 parking spaces at a cost, at least per my numbers, of $60,000 a spot, which is excessive in my mind. And that's where it comes down to for me on this. I've resolved the fact that there's a consensus of the other items being the height, the number of units, and all these other variations that I had cause for concern and I spoke about on many occasions. But really, at this point, the reason why is really the dollars and cents. The city of Elmhurst residents should not, and I will not vote for, the city of Elmhurst residents paying for $60,000 per parking spot. The other thing I want to touch on, other than the dollars and cents, because that's huge, is the benefits that come with the dollars and cents, and I personally believe, is pro-developer compared to pro-city of Elmhurst residents or taxpayers. The same developer had a proposal back in 2007, and I have the binder here in front of me, and some of those things was less residential units being 89. Retail, I think the retail now was proposed at 13,000 square feet, and back then was 20,000 plus, 20,400 square feet. So we were getting more retail space. That's a benefit for the city of Elmhurst residents and taxpayers. We weren't exceeding the height per our current code today. It was condos compared to apartments. And I can go on and on, up and down the list here of the number of benefits that was from, at that point, 2007, some of the debate 2 weeks ago was, well, you know, we shouldn't worry about the dollars and cents on what we paid for the land because that was upon recession times. Well, we were giving less per recession times in 2007, what was proposed by the developer themselves, than what we are today saying and what's before us today in 2015 when we're long past the recession. Well, maybe not that far long, but past the recession. So I don't understand, if you're looking at dollars and cents, how can you vote for a proposal that the residents, the taxpayers are paying $60,000 for a parking spot? How can you vote for a proposal that had less benefits for the developer, more benefits for the residents of Elmhurst 8 years ago than what we have before us today? It is about development, and I agree about development, but it's all about smart development, and that's the key word in that whole sentence. I don't see what we're doing here and what's before us today as being smart development. We're giving away the kitchen sink, and we continue to do so. Why we turn around and say we need to increase taxes. We need to do GO bonds for parking garages and everything else. We need to be smart about our dollars and cents and have a win-win. That's used here a lot on the dais and on the streets of the city of Elmhurst. I don't believe this is a win-win because we're giving too many benefits. In this case, again, my personal opinion, being educated in the issue, that too many benefits to the developer compared to the city of Elmhurst taxpayers, and that's who I was elected for. And I'm very concerned that we continue to do above and beyond, and this is one more case of above and beyond for the developer versus the taxpayers.
Okay, Alderman Levin, then I'll go to Alderman Leader.
What is a no vote? A no vote and if the no votes were to carry, would be we would start all over. Let's do it a third time. Let's go out and do the bids. We had 6 responsible, quality projects that were proposed. None of them, not one of them, was going to pay anywhere even close to half of the $10 million. So land value is what it is. I've already addressed, I'm not going to recover the fact that it's not $60,000 a parking space. Condos versus apartments, what's the relevance of that? No one's building condos now on that kind of scale. We have to live in the present, and in the present, we have a piece of land that has been sitting, pieces of land, I should say, that have been sitting on the city's books for a long, long time. Not productive, not producing for the tax base, for the schools, the parks in the city. So we shouldn't worry about the land because it's worth what it's worth. So a no vote would mean we start all over. And what makes us think that if we rebid the whole thing that we're going to get any more money? Maybe we'd get another, maybe it's $500,000 more we get. I'm not saying that's not a lot of money, but what's the opportunity cost that's foregone by starting over? Stormwater, if it's not enough, it's not enough. The idea of a project with a council of 14 is that there are compromises. I don't get everything I want. I don't think any alderman does. So this is a project that has taken a lot of work to bring back from the dead. It's not something we just pulled out and said we were going to do. It was put out there. It was presented. We got responses. We chose the one that the council wanted to move forward with, and we've been negotiating the best deal we could for a year. It would be completely irresponsible to vote down this project and have that vacant land and start over. I strongly support it. It's time to get the project moving, to get shovels in the ground, and get the property back on the tax roll so it can be productive, not only for the property itself, but to feed business into downtown Elmhurst, which was lost for things like the hospital moving south. Thank you.
Alderman Leader.
Many of us have watched this great drama unfold for the last 9 years. I have personally witnessed every twist and turn from the vantage point of this dais. So it is in a mood of trumpets and drums that I speak tonight. Let us be clear. The $10 million investment we have made in the Hahn Street project over the last 15 years will bring back many, many times that in new revenue that will lessen the burden on the existing Elmhurst taxpayers, revenue that will help fund our parks, police and fire protection, our physical infrastructure of roads and sewers, and much-needed flood mitigation. Perhaps most importantly, our schools, which are in danger of losing millions of dollars of state of Illinois aid, will be the prime beneficiary, with 70% of the new revenue going to them. This is a project which will triumphantly span the decades to come. A project that not only the current residents of Elmhurst will reap the benefits, but their children and their grandchildren. This is a historic opportunity. We personally will not be remembered 50 or 75 years from now, but the residents of Elmhurst will know what we did. The Hahn Street project will still be standing, and it will still be generating an abundant flow of broad-based benefits. Elmhurst, now and then, will be a better place for our actions. For tonight, we are moving the boulders of history. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the fact that this was removed from the consent agenda because I was not present 2 weeks ago when the report passed. I would have supported the report then. I will support the ordinance now. But a few things I wanted to comment on. First, I'd like to correct Alderman Levin. It would not be the third time, if this ordinance is voted down, it would not be the third time it goes out to vote. In fact, it would be the fourth time. When this project first came along, it was put out to bid twice at that point, and then a third time. So it'd actually be a fourth time that the project go out to bid. So any developer with any ideas had plenty of opportunity to bid on the project and come up with something that they wanted to do. And obviously, through many years, we've come up with this project as being the one we've chosen. Stormwater, I think that's very important to all of us. And I agree that you can look at any project and say, well, we could have done more. I think that's an easy argument to make, and there is a line that, as Alderman Levin said, there's a compromise. You say, okay, that's enough, that's not enough. But what I would point to this specific project, that Hahn Street was the first significant development that incorporated incremental stormwater into the planning. Now, there's been a couple projects that have kind of surpassed Hahn Street in terms of adding additional stormwater. The Nitty development and the Addison Street garage, those are actually in planning, or excuse me, in construction phase. So that the incremental stormwater in those projects will come online before Hahn Street will. But Hahn Street was in fact the first development that included incremental stormwater. So I think that's important to note that that was something that this council and the prior council deemed very important and moved forward with. Lastly, and Alderman Leader touched on it, I've been told that the lost opportunity on revenue at that site has been about $800,000 a year in taxes, roughly $800,000 a year. And over the course of 8 or 9 years, obviously we can do the math, that's millions of dollars. So the sooner we can get that property back on the tax rolls, the sooner we stop losing the lost revenue and start picking that lost revenue back up. However, it is important to note that property is now in TIF 4, so the school won't see that benefit right away. The TIF will see that, which leads to additional incremental development and things we can do in TIF 4 to help further development, but it also gives future councils the ability to release the property, do what they need to do at that time. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that if I'm going to talk about lost revenue and incremental revenue and tax revenue, that it's important to note that property is in TIF 4. It just gives the council greater flexibility. Bottom line is, we are going to be realizing property taxes, and it's just how we utilize them that will be important. So those are the comments I want to make, and I fully support the ordinance. Thank you.
Any other comments? Alderman Mulliner.
As an alderman who's been here throughout this whole process, I have to say that probably one of the biggest comments that I hear in the public is, when are you going to do something with Hahn Street? What's going to happen with Hahn Street? And I have to tell you, tonight, as far as I'm concerned, is a night of celebration. We have an opportunity tonight to set the cornerstone for the north part of the downtown in Elmhurst. And this is our opportunity. We've had 3 shots at it. This is our time. I don't think we're going to get another shot at it. If we were to pull this back, I don't think we're going to get developers who are going to come in and say they want to do this. This is a great project. This is something that this council and this city should be proud of. When they see this development finished, it's going to make a statement about where Elmhurst is and where we want Elmhurst to be in the future. And I think that's the most critical thing we can be looking at this point. The revenue that we're going to draw in will be terrific. That'll be beneficial. But the statement by itself of this fantastic new entryway to the city of Elmhurst is what's the most important statement that we as a council can make. And I am proud of this council for having the courage to stand up and say this is what we need to do in downtown.
Okay, any other comments? Anyone who hasn't had an opportunity yet before I go back to seconds? Alderman Bram.
Thank you. I, as well as Alderman Mulliner, have been here through this whole process, and it's not a process, the duration that I am in. I'm happy to know that it has taken so long. I am happy that we're at the 5-yard line. Unlike Alderman Levin's statements, I don't agree that a no vote is start over and add more time to the timeline for this development. A no vote sends a message to the developer that the pencil needs to be sharpened and we need a better deal for the taxpayers of Elmhurst. That's what a no vote to me signifies, at least. It doesn't signify we're starting over, because we do have an agreement with this developer and we do need to move forward with the project overall. It just says that, hey, developer, you had a project proposed years ago at the start of the recession that was better for the taxpayers, so we would like to see a little bit more benefit in 2015 compared to what you proposed in 2007. That's what a no vote says to me. We, as in the city of Elmhurst taxpayers, we held this property, $10 million plus of property through the recession. So whose back was it all on? It was on the taxpayers. It wasn't on any developers. You know, pro or con of the delay, I'd never wanted to see it go on this long without it being redeveloped, but it is what it is. But the people who felt the burden the whole time was not any developer in this room or anybody who submitted a proposal. It's the taxpayers who have felt the burden from day one until when there's a shovel hit in the ground, until the building is actually built. So I just wanted to clarify from my stance is that a no vote isn't starting over, because we're not saying a no vote means we're going to go out to RFP again and get requests. No, we're saying, developer, you need to come back with a better deal for the taxpayer of Elmhurst, and that's what I'd like to see.
Any other comments? Alderman Toledo, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just double checking. Assumed if you wanted to speak, you'd jump in.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else before I call the vote? Alderman Levin.
I wasn't going to speak again, but I feel that I'm not sure what adjective to use to suggest that when that negotiation would solve a problem. First of all, when we selected the bid, the numbers were largely set. We're not a great variance for what we were when we agreed to do the project with Morningside, when the council agreed to select that developer. Secondly, you know, it's one thing to come in at the end and say, we could make them sharpen the pencil. I can tell you from spending many hours talking to Assistant City Manager Kopp and Nick Peppers, our attorney, that the pencil's been very sharp. I represent developers on projects probably not this size, but more landowners, and I can tell you they're looking for what their profit margin is. And yeah, could you squeeze an extra 10,000 out? Yeah, another million? You're not gonna get it. So we selected someone, we've danced with them for a year, we've had some very hard-fought negotiations, and this is the final result, and we have to respect that and make it happen.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to please call the roll.
Levin.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Toledo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Olener.
Aye.
Okay, looks like 12 ayes and 2 nays.
12 ayes, 2 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 5.7, the ordinance and contract for the Han Street development is approved. On to agenda item 5.21. Clerk Spencer, if you would read the ordinance.
Yes. This is MCO-13-2015, an ordinance to amend paragraph F entitled Addressing the Council of Section 2.06 entitled Council Rules of Order of Chapter 2 entitled City Council, and to amend paragraph G entitled Prohibited Behavior During Meetings / Removal of Persons of Section 2.06 entitled Council Rules of Order of Chapter 2 entitled City Council of the Municipal Code of the Ordinance of the City of Elmhurst, Illinois.
Thank you, Clerk Spencer.
With
Alderman
that-
York.
With that being said, I would like to pull this back to committee. I need to,
Apologize to Clerk Spencer
I
first.
will.
And then
I tried to before she started.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, Chairman York wants to pull that back to committee, that's fine. That concludes all items off of the consent agenda. On to committee reports. Agenda 6.1, stormwater prioritization. This is a report out of Public Works. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Works and Buildings Committee that the revision of the Stormwater Project Prioritization Action Plan, moving the Webster Avenue and York/I-290 projects into the priority project list as outlined above, be approved. Signed by Jim Kennedy, Chairman, Chris Healy, Vice Chairman, Michael J. Bram, and Diane Gutenkopf.
Okay, to put this before committee, I will ask for an approval of the recommendation, the report and recommendation is read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Healy. Alderman Kennedy, this is a report out of your committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a report, obviously, to talk about additional projects that we want to undertake to further our efforts towards addressing stormwater problems. And those two projects are, again, York and I-290 with the assistance of IDOT, and also the Webster Avenue area just off of St. Charles Road, again with IDOT. The project at York and 290 will create 7 acre-feet of storage, and the one at Webster is 2 acre-feet. And each of those are pretty significant projects. We've got the agreement with IDOT to move forward on them, and so we as a committee would recommend that we would put the monies forth to do those. I will tell you that under other business, I want to talk about overall what we're doing with these projects and others in the grand scope, but I just, to make sure we're staying on task here, just talk about these. They're good projects. They're going to help the individual areas, and they'll help other areas where sometimes we have overflow, especially as it relates to the Webster project. That 2 acre-feet's not only going to help those homes there, but the potential for water that would flow towards the Brenhaven area during major storms. Thank you.
Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mayor. Understanding that Alderman Kennedy may have some additional comments during the other part, or the other business section, I'll hold some of my comments back till I see what he says later on. But I think it's important to note that these two projects, while they may not be the biggest in scope or directly impact some of the more affected areas in town, they are projects that are ready to go now, that we can move forward with now. And as you know, our committee, and I know we as a council said all along that as soon as we get something we can move on, we will. So I think that's the importance of these two, is they're ready to go now. We can move forward now. We can start adding additional stormwater capacity now. So that's the importance of these two, and I'll save the rest until later on. Thank you.
Alderman Kennedy.
Apparently, back. I just wanted to add from a timing standpoint, because we can really work with the IDOT folks. The Webster project should be able to come online by the fall of this year, so a pretty quick project. And then York and 290 could be as soon as spring of next year. So good projects that'll be done in a timely manner. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman York.
I'd just like to thank the committee, as we should every time we talk about stormwater, but it's finally good to see something going. I know the Webster Avenue's in the 4th Ward, and we've been talking with residents for 5 or 6 years now with city staff, and there's been a lot of interaction going back that long, and working with IDOT, I understand, can be challenging and time-consuming, but thank you for the residents of Webster Avenue, and like you said, it does have a, no pun intended, trickle-down effect to other areas that are affected, and I think this is a great project. I'm glad we're getting started.
Alderman Plumsky.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the committee and staff for this report and for the continuous work on stormwater projects. I have a question about the Geneva Avenue project. I know with the original plan, we had 9 homes, and with further examination, we came to the number of 15 homes that were flooded. And I just want to confirm that with the project that those 15 homes would be removed and not the original 9 that we thought were originally affected. Okay.
Alderman Kennedy, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so based on that analysis, when we looked at the original project, I think that number was 9. When we had city staff go back and look at it, I believe that number was increased to 15. And so the project that would ultimately be proposed with the Park District would be to address all 15 of those homes. And whatever the number is, 15, 13, 9, whatever it is, our goal would be to remove all of those homes from that flooding issue.
Okay. Alderman Brand.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple sentences on this. I think the York and 290 project, as Alderman Kennedy and Alderman Healy also addressed, is a shovel-ready project, and I think it's a big one for the north side of town, where the new development will be in, hopefully sooner than later, for the Waverton Hotel, and Mariano's right there. Once this is done, what we will not see in this area is flooding of York Road, and then subsequently flooding going eastbound into residential homes as well, which is critical. It's a major artery, as we all know, and that being blocked off, which it has on many hard storms, diverts tractor-trailer traffic and other traffic through the subdivision that has absolutely no sidewalks. So we've seen many a times various vehicles, being commercial and otherwise, going through residential area with kids getting off of school buses, et cetera. So I'm glad to see this move forward, and I'm glad to see both of these projects being taken place within the next, hopefully, less than a year.
Okay. Any other comments? Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you to call the roll.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquist.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. That motion passes. On to agenda item 6.2. Alderman Toledo, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
And Mayor, unfortunately, I would like to, I'm not sure the process here for this, but I am unable to continue to participate in the meeting at this point in time due to other conflicts. Do I just go ahead and sign off and Clerk Spencer denotes that accordingly?
Yes, I'm glad, yeah, I'm glad we didn't lose you and then wonder where you went. But no, that's okay. I understand you were fitting us in, so we appreciate it. And feel free to, we can consider this your official sign-off.
Thank you.
Okay, Clerk Spencer, noted? Okay, where were we? Oh, 6.2. Committee Report 6.2. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council approve the water rate reduction as outlined above. The FCAAS Committee further recommends suspension of the rules to consider MCO-12-2015 to allow for timely implementation of the rate reduction. Signed by Kevin L. York, Chairman, Bob Dunn, Vice Chairman, Marty Deuter, and Noel P. Toledo.
Okay, to put this before the council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Dunn. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your
Report
Honor.
out of your committee.
Thank you. The main reason this report is on the report section is because we are asking for a suspension of the rules to implement the rate change faster. In this particular case, it's good news. The DuPage Water Commission has reduced the water rate itself that they charge the city and actually all the members of the DuPage Water Commission. And, you know, due to the hard work of this committee in years past and continuing on, we've broken out the billing segments for water, for water-related administration and services like the water mains and whatnot. So we're able to take a rate reduction like this and act on it immediately, and that's what we're hoping to do tonight. It's a small decrease. It's not anywhere near as worthy the celebration that Hahn Street is, but it is a small victory. So I would ask for everybody's support for the report.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to call the vote.
York.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo is absent now. Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Gutenkopf,
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent, motion carries. Very good, on to reports and recommendations. 7.1, Mayor Morley.
No.
What did I miss? Oh, look, we got 2 more reports, isn't that great? Getting ahead of myself. Where's my printed stuff? Ah, there it is. 6.3, thanks for keeping me on my toes, Clerk Spencer. This is a report out of Finance. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council authorize the sale of a 2015 general obligation bond issue in the amount of $16 million to be used to finance currently budgeted infrastructure improvements as outlined in this report. Signed by Kevin L. York, Chairman, Bob Dunn, Vice Chairman, Marty Dorter, and Noel P. Toludo.
Okay, to put this before the council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Dunn. Didn't mean to cut you short there, Alderman York.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
You have the floor.
No problem. The report pretty much outlines what we're doing here, and this is the request for the 2015 general obligation bond issue. All the elements out of this report are out of the budget that was passed going into this new fiscal year, new calendar year, which is now our fiscal year. And everything is outlined here in the report. $16 million is a lot of money. There's a lot of things going on here in the city of Elmhurst. There's really no other way or no way to put it any simpler. The Addison Street project, costing approximately $14.5 million. We did finance what we've completed so far with some money that we've done through refinancing of bonds, but we have a shortfall of about $9 million, which we're going to bond for to complete, and it was contemplated in the budget. We talked about some stormwater tonight. We had approximately $4 million that were projected to be needed in 2015. Actually, in the budget, it was at $6.8 million, I believe, was what we contemplated in the budget. But some of the projects just aren't going to proceed fast enough, so there's no reason to go out and get the bond money in anticipation of those moving on, especially considering that we're at a larger bond issue than we typically are at this time. And then $3 million is also in the utility fund for upgrades and renovations at the wastewater treatment plant. This could be done in more than one action. We could come and say we need X number of dollars now and we need X number of dollars later on, but we know that we're going to need $16 million during the course of this year, or some portion, most of the portion of that. And with issuance costs and going to the market and those types of costs, it just makes sense to go ahead and do the whole amount now. It will save money in the long run. And the good news is we did retire some bond principal this year. We continue to retire bond principal each year. Again, I realize that $16 million is a large bond issue, but we have a lot of capital improvements that we're making, and those items are simply paid for with issuance of debt so that the costs are spread amongst the people who actually get to utilize the value of those projects. So, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Dunn, then I'll go to Alderman Bram.
Yeah, just to add a few fine points to what Chairman York had said. Generally, we don't go out for GO bonds this large. Normally, we try to stay below $10 million for an issue in a particular year. That's so that we can allow that bond to be bank qualified. That allows us to pay something like 0.1, about 15 basis points less. But we do have pressing capital projects this year, as Chairman York had described. So because of the importance of the stormwater mitigation projects that we have, the garage project, and also the investments at the wastewater treatment plant, It was important and deemed to be necessary to proceed with that this year. And we're retiring our bond principal at a nice rate, about $3.5 million a year is what we've been retiring. As was stated, it's a large bond this year that for vital, important projects, and it's necessary to to move forward with these critical projects. Thanks.
Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman York just mentioned in regards to the savings from doing it all now compared to chunking it out or breaking it up throughout the year or subsequent years. I was wondering if the committee had, a rough ballpark figure on what that savings is. I know it's estimated in total to be $160,000 for the issuance cost. And then the other question, and the main question I have is, how come we're not utilizing, especially when it comes to the garage, if the committee could speak to this, any of the TIF funds for TIF 1 to pay for it instead of bonding this much from a GO bond perspective?
Alderman York, you care to respond?
Yes, I think I'd like to ask if Marilyn could respond to the first question regarding the cost for the issuance of a second bond. I'm wondering if the council would indulge me to ask Marilyn that question?
Yes.
Exactly what I need to do that. I think I have an idea, but I don't. I'm going to put Marilyn on the spot instead of.
Our city code wants the treasurer to address us without any special. So, yes. Ms. Gaston?
I would say in round numbers, a savings would be between 30 and 50,000, and that would come in the areas of our rating services, because we would pay one time for a rating rather than twice, and also in attorney's fees, not specifically the city's attorney, although there would be some savings there in having one, but our bond counsel. So you would only have one bond counsel fees for the most part. So those are the two that come to mind. I think there probably are some others, but those two come to mind as some of the biggest ones where savings could come in.
Okay.
Thank you. And then
other types of funding for this project?
Right. I think the committee discussed that a little bit, but I think when we're talking about bonding in general, what we do is we try and associate several different projects with a particular bond issue, and it gives us the flexibility if there's some other financing that becomes available, and in this particular case, some TIF 1 funds could be considered to be used for the parking deck, but by going out and bonding and laying down projects that are there, items that it can be spent on, it allows us then within the ordinance to use those GO bond proceeds for all these different items versus just saying, we're gonna go out to general obligation bond issue for the parking deck. And if that's all we put on there, then we have to use it for that. But by identifying stormwater projects, capital improvement projects, in our laundry list of things here, it gives us the option to use those proceeds to do as we see fit should some other financing alternatives become available.
Thank you. Much appreciated for that response. That's a question that comes up a lot. Thanks.
Okay. Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mayor. As a follow-up to Alderman Bram's question specific to TIF 1 funds and the Aston Street deck. So if I heard you correctly, Chairman York, that if this council were to choose down the road to take TIF 1 increment and use it to pay for the deck, we could use that money to pay down this bond issue if we wanted to use it to do other things at Aston Street, if we want to do something incremental, i.e. stormwater, but we still have the flexibility down the road if we choose to use TIF 1 increment to pay down this bond or pay for the deck. We have that ability, don't we?
That is correct. And if you look at and I'm sure you recall, Alderman Healy, because you've pulled out your budget book on the dais once and caught me by surprise, but I think you'll remember that we do anticipate other capital expenditure projects in the next calendar year as well. So if we decided that we wanted to take some monies from TIF 1 and use it, then we could use the remainder of these proceeds then and reduce our general bond obligation offering or request for the following year.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Clerk Spencer?
York.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo, absent. Levin.
Aye.
Thanks.
Healy.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mullenor.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
That's 13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, motion passes. Report 6.3 is approved. On to Report 6.4. Clerk Spencer, I would ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council direct the City Attorney to prepare appropriate resolution authorizing reimbursement to the Parking System Fund, Stormwater Fund, and Municipal Utility Fund for capital expenditures related to the Addison Street Deck Project, stormwater projects, and wastewater treatment plant projects that are incurred prior to the issuance of a debt obligation. Signed by Kevin L. York, Chairman, Bob Dunn, Vice Chairman, Marty Deuter, and Noel P. Toledo.
Okay, to put this before the council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the recommendation, the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Dunn. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is more or less of a housekeeping item. The bond sale won't happen for a number of weeks now, and this resolution allows us to reimburse expenses from this point forward until the time that we actually receive the proceeds of the bond. So it's pretty much a housekeeping item in relation to the general obligation bond issue that we just approved.
Okay, Alderman Dunn.
Just to follow up on that, we're able to pay invoices 60 days, if you back up 60 days from the issuance date, any invoices that are incurred on these particular projects, the parking deck, the stormwater projects, or the projects at the wastewater treatment plant. We've been incurring costs. People, I'm sure everyone has seen what's going on Addison Street, so we're able to take some of these bond proceeds and pay for some of those expenses.
Okay, any other comments? Clerk Spencer.
York.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo, absent. Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mullenor.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent, motion carries. 6.4 is approved. Now, on to Agenda Item 7, reports and recommendations of appointed and elected officials. Mayor Morley, that's me. A couple of things. Alderman Plumsky mentioned already, but I'll mention it again. Wednesday evening, 6:30 to 8:30. All are welcome to the sustainability planning session. It's going to be a working session. It's a result of the task force that we pulled together a couple of months ago, and we're hoping to get a good turnout and get some public input and some feedback from the public. Number two, those folks, I think it's the north end of town, who have Friday trash pickup. They will have Friday trash pickup, but your free garbage day is the next day following. So Friday, and then free trash pickup is on Saturday. And then this is kind of a, I don't know, late breaking one if you want to put it in those terms. Got a call from Alderman Nybo earlier this week. I'm sorry, former Alderman Nybo, Senator Nybo. A bill flew through the Senate, Senate Bill SB 0636, that may or may not affect Elmhurst. We don't know yet. But it was a bill to force O'Hare to keep open all the runways it has, not allow them to demolish any runways, and potentially increase the number of runways they have there to 10. There's a couple of moving parts on this, but it flew through the Senate. It's at the House right now. We don't know the status of it there. And we really don't know how it affects Elmhurst. Our folks at DuPage Mayors and Managers are looking at the particulars and seeing how it will. The initial thought is if they keep all the runways open, including there's 2 diagonal runways on the northwest corner that they potentially want to keep open, there might be an impact to the traffic, but we don't know yet. The other issue is there doesn't seem to be a consensus on whether or not the Illinois General Assembly actually has any effect over O'Hare and can govern the FAA. So that's still playing out in Springfield. As soon as we have an update, and if it's any impact to Elmhurst and the noise, we'll let you know. And then I'll turn it over to City Manager Grabowski, who can answer Alderman Bram's previous question about Elgin O'Hare meeting that's coming up.
Thank you. There is an open house scheduled for Wednesday, the 22nd, and that's regarding the Elgin O'Hare Tollway project. And that is at Wooddale Junior High from 4:30 to 7:30. Again, Wednesday, the 22nd. And that is open to the public. The other item that I have, we're moving through the downtown plan with the consultant, and we have scheduled the community workshop on that one, and that is going to be May 28th at 7 p.m. here in City Council chambers. We'll certainly get the word out now and as we get closer to it, but now you have the date, so please put it in your calendars, and we'll send something out to the council as well. If you could share it with your email list, we'd appreciate that.
Okay, any other reports? Alderman Bram?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the update on the Elgin O'Hare project, as well as that Senate bill. I saw that in I believe it was the Tribune as well, and that's cause for concern. Maybe not throwing up our arms or yelling and screaming just yet, but obviously we need to monitor that. The first report, I guess, is just, I want to congratulate everybody who ran for office and those who were elected and those who threw their hat in the ring. I also want to, though, thank, the report part is political signs. There seemed to be a decent amount of political signs out this year for the number of races we had, and I want to thank those who picked them up on a timely basis. I would like to ask the report on pretty much my 2 typical requests, one of which being the Waverton, if we know when they'll be complete with the demolition. I'm glad to see they're about 1/3, maybe close to a half way through the demolition. If we have a more precise date on when that will be complete. And then the other Alderman Bram typical is Lucky Motors. I guess Alderman Gutenkopf has asked in the past as well. Where are we with the current status? What could be shared with the public on where Lucky Motors is as well?
I know that the original estimate to demo the old Holiday Inn was 4 to 6 weeks, and I believe we're 2 weeks into it, so it's going to be another 2 to 4 weeks, but we'll contact the developer and see if we can get a tighter date. And Jim, as it relates to the...
As far as Lucky Motors goes, I think everyone knows that we are in court with them, and I don't know how much we can really talk about. I'll look at the city attorney.
I mean, it's fair to say that they filed an answer. Their attorney filed an appearance and has responsibly pled, and we're in that process of litigation.
Thank you.
Okay, any other reports? Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 items. First of all, as it relates to the Public Works and Buildings Committee, we are going to meet next Monday. I know that's a little bit out of character, but there's a number of items as it relates to the Addison parking deck project that need to be addressed so that we can keep the project on track. So we'll have a short meeting. It'll be specific to that subject matter, and we'll go forward. The second item, I just kind of wanted to give a kind of state of the city, if you will, as it relates to everything related to stormwater. If you remember, we've had 4 storms in 6 years that have been significant from a flooding standpoint, and if you went back from 1987 to 2010, we had 1 over 23 years. So we're living in a different world than we did back then. And as we as a committee and as a larger council looked at these projects and looked at our approach, we always said we wanted to do the most good for the most amount of people at the best possible cost. And when we looked at the 3 types of projects and the things we needed to look at, we prioritized sanitary, sewer flooding, as the top one because that's worse than stormwater. We then decided we needed to get after the policy piece while we were also working with the other governing bodies on projects where we could place stormwater in open space, because we know that to do it from a pure infrastructure standpoint with larger pipes, with bigger pumping into the quarry and then compensatory storage, that's 4 to 6 times the dollar amount that it is to do those individual projects. So I'm happy to say over the last few years, as it relates to sanitary, we've made it a priority to increase the televising of sewers, to increase the lining of those sewers, and the biggest thing that we did was what will be coming online later this year is the wet weather control facility, which will have a direct positive impact on 2,300 homes in southwest Elmhurst. So I think we should be proud of that. As it relates to policies, there's been a lot that we've done, and I just kind of want to highlight those. We put in place the policy for on-site detention for new construction. Happy to say that 70-plus homes have been constructed since the policy went in, and that does not include the 50-plus homes that are going into NITI going forward and all other future homes. So we've made a significant impact there. We also put in a policy that if a home was going to increase their net impervious, they had to mitigate for that. I can say that more than 50 homes have had to abide by that policy since it was implemented, with that in place for more to come. And something we did not have in the past is we have a limit now on the impervious on a given property. In years past, you could put concrete lot line to lot line, and there was nothing to limit that. We have that now in place that can't happen. We put in place a program of 50-50 cost share for any resident that wanted to do on-site storage or any green improvements to their property to, again, help us from a flooding standpoint. We put in place a program to allow residents to disconnect their downspouts and splash those to grade. Currently in many of the new homes, anything pretty much built after 1990, it was allowed and encouraged to go right into the sewer system. We're cost sharing with individuals that want to do that with the city staff helping them in that process. We also changed the criteria for the rear yard drain program so that there's more meat to that process, and it has to have greater oversight from the city staff to be able to do that. With all that work, I can say we've made significant improvements. Beyond that, as it relates to the projects, we talked about the Tree Streets project that will be that's underway now. That'll take 20 acre-feet of storage. We have IGAs pending with the Park District for 2 projects. Golden Meadows, it will be 14 acre-feet of storage, and York Commons at 11 acre-feet. Those have significant benefits to the homes in those areas. District 205, we continue to work with them on the Madison project, and that has 7 acre-feet of storage. The 2 projects we talked about earlier of York and 290 and Webster are 7 acre-feet and 2 acre-feet respectively. So if you add up all those 5 projects, it's 61 acre-feet of storage. So I think we can be pleased to say that we're working and putting a significant benefit and improvement to what we have there. Going forward, we will continue to work with the governing bodies. As we looked at, as a committee, our priorities are the ball fields at Bryan, followed by York High School, and then Jackson School. Each of those have major benefits. From a Park District standpoint, those projects at East End, Crestview, and Seminole will be addressed in time. Just to wrap up, from a policy standpoint, one of the next things that the committee will work on after the new council will be individual flood proofing. So we want to put together policy and some plans. If there are homeowners that want to do individual flood proofing, we want to be able to allow them to do that. One policy I didn't mention before is we now have a policy for flood-prone properties and buyouts. We, as a council, put $1 million in our budget last year to address that, and now we've got a plan to do that in a policy. And in the coming months, we'll be working on the actual implementation of that and ultimately a recommendation back to council on potentially individual homes. Lastly, the work continues on an infrastructure standpoint. City staff continues to look at ways that we can improve infrastructure beyond those projects that can be done with both 205 and the Park District. Those are things related to pumping capacity, larger sewers, and both city staff and elected officials have engaged with the DuPage County Forest Preserve to begin work with them to create compensatory storage areas potentially on the west side of the creek here in town to allow us to do additional pumping. So I want to thank all the members of the committee. If anybody has been to our Public Works Committee meetings, the first thing we talk about at length is what are we doing about stormwater and sanitary and policies, and it's been that way for the last 6 years that I've been on the council, and I'm happy to say we've made the improvements we have that are coming forward. We've got a lot of work to do, and I also want to thank the Greater Council who has supported us all the way along in these endeavors, so thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you.
Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things to follow up on from what Chairman Kennedy mentioned. First, and we talked about this at committee. When you look at the two projects we passed tonight, from just a pure number of homes impacted, we had a concern at the committee, and we talked about it that if somebody in town just looked at that list and said, why are they talking about projects that are very small in number in terms of number of homes, while some other projects that have many homes, why are they moving on those first? And as I kind of said up front, during the actual conversation, we'll move as quickly as we can, as soon as we can. And it just so happens that these projects got the approval, so we're moving them forward in the interim until we get approval with 205 and approval for additional projects with the Park District. And then the county, as we get the ability to do things, we certainly will. But it's not that we're not concerned about the Swain and Saylor and Jackson and Villette areas, and we're moving at these first. These just happen to get the green light from the areas that we need to get the green light from. So I think that's very important from an optics standpoint to the community. Secondarily, specific to the county, as Chairman Kennedy mentioned, we've been talking to the county for at least a couple of years. There was one, I would call it an impediment, but it was certainly an issue that had to be resolved before additional conversations could occur, and that was down in the Brush Hill area, down by the new hospital. Staff and county have been working together for at least a couple of years to get that issue resolved, and it was made very clear to us that until that issue was resolved, the county was not willing to talk about additional issues, i.e. additional pumping into the creek, use of compensatory credits that we have down in the Eldridge Reservoir, et cetera. So we've reached a tentative agreement with DuPage County in the Brush Hill area. It's going to result in us having to do some, what I would classify, minor projects over the next few years to allay their fears in that area, and really their fears have to do with getting in and out of the hospital on Brush Hill Road and Prospect. We're going to have to raise those roads up a little bit, but we've got agreement with the county to do that now. The good news there is it'll allow us to now advance the discussions on some of the other areas that we need to address that don't have other projects assigned to them, i.e. South Spring Road, Swain, Saylor, Villette, et cetera, where we're going to have to, really the only way to mitigate those areas is to put additional water into the creek. Well, now that we've got this Brush Hill issue resolved, we can advance those conversations. So it's still going to take, a long time for us to get to, the end game in those areas, but, we're moving them forward. We're advancing them. We've got some of these initial hurdles out of the way. I say all this again because I want to make sure that the residents and the council knows that we're hitting all these areas as much as we can, as hard as we can, but it takes time and it's going to take additional patience. But until then, until we get those agreements on some of those larger projects, we're going to continue to move forward on these important but smaller in scale projects. In fact, there was a woman who lived on Webster when I made those comments, and she kind of shot me a goofy look at the committee meeting, and I told her I didn't mean to downplay what we're doing for you because that's important, but in terms of number of homes, you know, we're doing what we can, and these projects have been greenlighted, so, thank you.
Okay, any other reports? Alderman Levin.
I don't know if this was other announcements or other business, but the DPZ committee last week heard two proposals for the vacant, or for the surface lots, which we will no longer need on Addison Street. And we had presentations by each of the two respondents to our RFP. Next Monday, April 27th, we will be again addressing those, and as we announced at that meeting, to the extent that the public wants to come and give us their input as we consider that. I'm not sure any final decisions will be made from the committee at that meeting, but it would be a time for the members of the public who want to share comments with us to do so.
Okay. Any other reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 8, ordinance 8.1. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the ordinance.
MCO-12-2015, an ordinance amending section 7.200 entitled Water Service Charges of the Chapter 7 entitled Water and Sewer of the Municipal Code of the Ordinance of the City of Elmhurst, Illinois.
Okay, to put this before the council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Dunn. Alderman York?
Really nothing additional on this. This is a result of the report asking us to suspend the rules.
Okay, follow-up to the report. Any other comments or questions? Clerk Spencer?
York.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toludo, absent. Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, motion passes. Ordinance agenda item 8.1 is approved. On to other business. Is any other business? Seeing none, we'll move on to other business 9.2. Alderman Gutenkopf chose not to run for re-election, and this is her last council meeting, but not her last committee meeting.
Apparently not.
But before we ask Alderman Gutenkopf to sit in her retirement rocker, we want to give Alderman Gutenkopf an opportunity to address not only the audience and family and friends that are here, but your fellow committee members. So Alderman Gutenkopf, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's kind of odd thinking this is the last time after 8 years. Do you know that Illinois is one of only 10 states that doesn't have a civic education graduation requirement, and that many students leave high school without the knowledge and skills that they need to be our next generation of citizens? I consider myself really fortunate that I went to a high school at a time when civics was part of the curriculum. And I think because of that, I ran for public office. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity twice given me by residents of the First Ward. I welcomed every chance I had to meet with, speak with, and interact with every one of them. Every town hall meeting, every coffee and conversation, and every time I walked the ward, I learned something new, and hopefully I made a bit of a difference in our town. I'm proud of the many changes that I've seen in the ward over the past 8 years, from infrastructure improvements to stop signs. And I will really miss these personal interactions. 8 years of city council service has helped shape how I think today about participatory democracy. You know, I think now about democratic systems as falling along a continuum from strong to thin. Strong systems include more voices, greater public participation. Thin systems demand less from citizens and give more decision-making power to elected representatives. So sign me up as a proponent of strong democracy. My view of a healthy, well-functioning, strong democracy is one where people experience opportunities to exchange ideas, to participate in the process of
policymaking. Democracy is enhanced when people deliberate, particularly with those with whom they disagree. This deliberative democracy strengthens our society because it creates people who see each other as political equals, who value other points of view, who weigh evidence, and who ultimately become more informed. You who sit here on the dais have great power and great opportunity. You may choose to continue voting as a bloc, to never crack open your council packets and vote as your friends do. Or you may choose to conduct your own background research. You may reach out to your constituents and assess their feelings about Elmhurst direction. You may even choose to champion an underdog position, to promote debate, and thus ensure a much stronger final decision. 5 years ago, my father's health was failing, and a group of family members gathered to visit and say their goodbyes. One of my cousins asked my dad, "What do you believe in?" And he answered, "I believe in doing what is right." So with that story, I leave you with this one thought, this one admonition, this one piece of advice. Do what is right. Thank you.
Alderman Gutenkopf, I would ask that you
Oh, good Lord.
ascend the rocker.
See ya. As we've said to many others, be careful of steps. Not on the last day.
Break her ankle.
Okay. As is tradition, when we have an outgoing or outgoing elected officials, we give the opportunity of the other elected officials on the dais to wish that person well, should they so choose. So, Alderman Levin?
Thank you. Alderman Gutenkopf, I think I may have known you longer than anybody on the council in terms of public life. I'm not sure, but our time together dates before the council, before either of us were involved in the council, I should say. I have some things I'd like to note. One is that you are truly a public servant. I think that when people come to you, you have been a tireless advocate for those in your ward and others in the city when you are on a cause. You always do your homework. I think you do your homework more than the vast majority of people. You always are prepared, and I think you've put a lot of energy into this. I know that for your work full-time, you have other obligations, and yet you always have been here fully participating and doing, I think you've always done what you felt is the right thing, and I appreciate that. And so I wish you the best, and thank you for your years of service.
Okay. Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. As I was thinking about the meeting tonight and it being Alderman Gutenkopf's last meeting, there were a handful of things that came to mind. One, I think you were obviously a very intelligent person. You gave a tremendous amount of relevant professional experience, and I've learned many things from watching you here in action. Another thing that came to mind is something that I would probably appreciate more than other folks, and that's the ease of coordinating issues related to the First Ward. Our unique dynamic of having two aldermen serving the same area, I think, is one that can lead to lots of complication and duplication, and I always appreciated that you and I were able to navigate that largely with ease. So thank you for that. And then the last thing that came to mind that I was giving thought to is that in my 2 years on council, I have a growing understanding that in our society, there will likely always be a portion of people with a sense of mistrust and disillusionment with government, often directed at multiple levels of government. I think this group of folks greatly appreciates being represented by someone whom, regardless of regardless of outcome, stands up and speaks her mind. I think that group of folks in particular will very much miss your voice on this council. And more broadly and generally speaking, my sense is that during your 8 years, the First Ward has felt very well represented. So I appreciate your service, I thank you for your service, and I wish you the best of luck.
Alderman Wagner.
Alderman Gutenkopf, I'll come to you.
What?
I just wanted to thank you. I've only known you for 6 years, but you are certainly a tireless public servant, and I think we all learned what to do and what not to do on this council. So there's a lot of lessons in there to be learned, and appreciate your public service. Thank you. Best of luck.
Norman.
Diane, I want to thank you for that really graceful statement, because I think that you clearly delineated your legacy here. It's about democracy. And though I prepared these remarks in advance, essentially what I am saying buttresses what you said. So, very briefly, the greatest of the Roman political orators, Cicero, once said, "Though the entire world exclaims against me, I will say what I think." Often our debates are about the limits of logic and the surprising usefulness of a passionate, strongly worded, controversial, and critical argument on occasion. I suppose none of us welcomes criticism, but criticism, even harshly worded, is of the greatest necessity and value in a democracy. It is difficult, even dangerous, to live in a place where only one idea dominates. There have been some things said by all of us in the heat of anger or emotion on this dais over the years that were perhaps best unsaid and certainly should be forgotten. In the end, be truthful and let people respond as they will. And let that be the epitaph for all of us. Thank you again for your service.
Anyone else? Alderman Dunn.
Diane, I think you were extremely hardworking alderman. You had more town halls, coffee and conversations than I think any other alderman had. And that was a lot of value to your residents, to interact with them. I know any issue that overlapped with the second ward and maybe something you were looking at, you were extremely engaged and involved in those, and it just showed your commitment to serving your residents in the ward. I did admire your broad grasp of all the issues that go before council, and there's a lot of them. And I had the opportunity to serve with you on Public Works, and although you're not an engineer, you were all over all those issues, and you tackled them well, and I think you were an asset to the committee and to the council, so thanks for your service.
Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Diane, thank you for your public service. Doing anything for 8 years is a long time, so I greatly appreciate it. And, you know, when we talked about the public works things and related to stormwater and all that, you were an integral part of that, so you can hold your head high going forward that you were a big part of making Elmhurst better from a flooding and an improvement standpoint. Thank you again. Good luck.
Treasurer Leibowitz.
Now, for the second time tonight, I'm going to contradict something Alderman Levin said. because I think I've known Diane longer than you have.
Just want to make sure you're awake.
But I agree with all your other comments, and I agree with Bob Dunn. So I'm just going to say thank you for your service. I know how hard you worked, because I saw you with all your notes. She was always very well prepared. Thank you, Diane.
Alderman Palomsky.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Gutenkopf, you served the residents of the First Ward and Elmhurst for 8 years, volunteering your time as alderman and dedicating your time to educating yourself on city business and on concerns of your residents through your work preparing for meetings, but also, as Alderman Dunn mentioned, your more one-on-one contact, informal meetings and coffee and conversations, and I know that was much appreciated. I want to thank you for your service. And I came across this quote from Harriet Naylor from the Red Cross that I think sums up a lot of the work done here. Volunteering, it is truly gratifying to serve a cause, practice one's ideals, work with people, solve problems, see benefits, and know one had a hand in them. Thank you.
Alderman Healy.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Gutenkopf, when I look back on my 6 years working with you on the council, I think of our relationship, and it's gone from periods of time where I'm fairly certain each of us wanted to claw each other's eyeballs out to collaborating on significant projects for the city. And I think you and I both know on a couple of the major ones, there was great collaboration. It's hard being an alderman, and it's hard being an alderman during points of a city's history that we've had over the last few years, and as being members of the Public Works Committee, I believe we did a lot of good, and a lot of the good we did was because we worked together collectively as a committee, and you and I as committee members to get those things done. And at this period of time, when you look at everything that's gone on, and again, I'm really kind of thinking of the public work stuff. I'm proud of the stuff that we did together, that we were able to get done and get to the council and then get passed. That's what I take great pride in, and thank you for your efforts. 8 years is a long time to be an alderman, especially during the period of time we've had. So thank you for your efforts, and I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Alderman Mulliner.
Alderman, thank you for all your service. You've done a terrific job in representing your ward and representing the city, and all the things that have gotten done over the last 6 years or 8 years have been terrific, and I appreciate having an opportunity to work with you. We've had our differences, but we've had our agreements too, so we've gotten a lot of stuff done. So thank you for your service.
Alderman York.
Thank you. Alderman Gutenkopf, thank you for your tireless work for the city and for the residents. I know that having serving with a person like you has kept me on my toes, made sure that I understood what I was doing and what I was saying, and you asked great questions, and I wish you the best of luck and success in everything you do. Thank you.
Clerk Spencer.
Alderman Gutenkopf, I just want to wish you good luck and thank you for your service. And what you mentioned yourself about working with email lists and coffees and town hall meetings, I think that you and Alderman Pezza paved the way for those email lists and communication with your constituents. So I think you should be proud of that. And I just want to agree with Alderman Deuter. You are an intelligent woman, and good luck to you.
Alderman Bram.
Thank you. Alderman Gutenkopf, I guess this is the one last time that I can call you Alderman Gutenkopf. Your last, other than next week's committee meeting, sorry, if you so choose to be there. Alderman Gutenkopf, your last words tonight represent you well, as I believe Alderman Leader said, as an alderman and how you served your tenure here as an alderman. I can definitely speak to the characteristics of Diane Gutenkopf as a person that I respect and admire. Some of these characteristics are a lot that have been mentioned tonight, which is intelligence, listener, direct, honest, truthful, hardworking, common sense, ethical, caring, etc. down the line. But what I want to touch on is really how those personal characteristics, I believe, translated into Diane Gutenkopf as an alderman over the past 8 years. A few of the things I wanted to just highlight is always standing up for what is best for the First Ward residents. That was always your primary focus, as well as Elmhurst residents as a whole. But you always took it very seriously. Anytime you walked in these doors at City Hall, anytime you walked into a meeting with residents that you represent, and listened well, took notes, done your homework, and tried to represent them the best as you possibly could. I already touched on this, but due diligence in researching the issue. I've sat by you only for a few years now, or a couple of years, and I've seen the notes that you've taken. We've had conversations in the past over some of the larger issues. So I know that you've always been on point in doing your due diligence and doing your homework. Another one that I admire is taking a stand, even if it wasn't part of the majority, you standing either alone or part of the minority. I always respected that. Anybody who could, no matter what the collective crowd believes, if you believed differently than that, you took a stand and stood proud to do so. What it comes down to is that when the votes have always been cast, then we were always able to discuss each other's perspective on any issue and respect their position even when we didn't agree on it, which I think was sometimes a decent amount. Although all the accomplishments I want to make sure you do understand over the past 8 years that you have accomplished. Alderman Healy touched on things from Public Works, but there's been a lot over the past years that you yourself have put forward, but also have fought for and voted on as an alderman throughout your tenure. Before I forget, I do want to thank you for your service, and I want to make sure that you, and I'm sure you won't have a problem enjoying your Monday nights once again. But the second to last thing is you really do represent the term elected official very well. I'm proud to call you an elected official, and you should wear that badge with great honor. Lastly, once all the votes have been cast and are behind us, I know that at the end of the day, I can walk away knowing that I can call Diane Gutenkopf a true friend. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Honquist.
I know I usually don't say much, but I don't want to be totally forgotten. Yeah. So, Alderman Gutenkopf, thank you for your service. I had a friend say to me this weekend, there's a lot of people, or many people, that would like to serve in public office. They're just not willing to pay the price to get there. And I found that out myself going through an election. It's very hard, it's very stressful, and then you get rewarded by coming to this job, which is hard and stressful. And you did it for 8 years, and so thank you very much on behalf of all the people out there that want to do it, but that didn't have the energy and the strength to do it. You did it twice. Thank you for your service, and good luck in the future.
I think that's everybody, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say a couple of words, but before then, I want to remind Alderman Gutenkopf, I'm going to ask her after that, back to her seat so that she can motion to close the meeting. Anyway, Alderman Gutenkopf, I think we're the only two remaining from our freshman class when we got elected 8 years ago. It was fun going through the educational process as alderman. Both Alderman Kennedy and Alderman Honquist said a lot of what I wanted to say, which is really paying the price as an elected official. Alderman Brand mentioned earlier, thank you to everybody who ran, and everybody who ran didn't necessarily have to win, but everyone who ran. While we appreciate public input and it's always sought, it takes a special person to take it a step further and throw their hat into the ring for an election. And everybody up here has been through that. As Alderman Honquist says, paid the price. And you did it more than once. And anybody who does that really is showing to their community that they're willing to put themselves out there. Alderman Kennedy said 8 years is a long time. I think there could be a special calculation for 8 years as a public official is really like 36 years. Dog years? Well, I didn't want to say dog years, so. You know, you're on the firing line, especially when you're elected in your neighborhood. And certainly over 8 years, and I think everyone else here would agree, that at some point, you're going to be on the opposite side of an issue of every single person in your ward over 8 years, with all the decisions that you have to make. And you have to handle that. You have to handle that very well and still work for that person and work for your ward. And you did that for 8 years. So I want to congratulate you on those 8 years, congratulate you on your hard work. Thank you for your 8 years of service, and wish you well in the future. So you can stop straining and assume your official seat, at least for the next 2 weeks. Watch the steps. You get that, Alderman Bram? All right. I don't believe there's any other business.
Gosh, I hope not.
Right there with you, Alderman Gutenkopf. All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Alderman Gutenkopf with a motion. Alderman Deuter, her ward mate, with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned, approved. Thank you very much.